So over the years, I've had the privilege of working with all kinds of different footballers from pro level, amateur level, young footballers, as well as coaches. And I've made it my goal to really simplify the process, not only just for me, but also for others to be able to really understand what is it that we need to do on a weekly and or daily basis. Now, the objective, obviously, it's always to be as close as possible to our peak level of performance coming on match day, because this is the most important day of the week. Okay, obviously, if it's just one match, you got weeks that you have two matches or three matches, but the match is the most important thing to be able to organize and or structure your training week. Okay, so your weekly training structure. Now, this looks overwhelming right now, and it might give you a little bit of anxiety, but I will do my best to explain what all of this means and how it all comes together. All right, so it's a simple system. Trust me that it is a simple system, but simple and powerful because it helps you to understand what is it that I need to do before a training session, during a training session, and or post-training session, or if the session was in the morning, what I can do if that is the case on the evenings. Okay, so you've probably seen my other videos. If not, then I'll explain a lot more on a lot of these concepts. But for today's video, I'm just going to make it very easy for you to understand. All right, so let's move along. All right, good. Beautiful. All right, so let's touch base on the week. All right, like I mentioned to you before, this is the most important day of the week. Okay, this is your match day. And then right after that, we start reverse engineering. So what should happen before, okay, the match? Because you might be doing some good things right here, but not for that particular day, which is a match day -1. -1 meaning 24 hours before the game, -2 meaning 48 hours before the game, so on and so forth. Okay, this match day +2, for those of you guys who've never heard of this, it means that it's 48 hours post your last match. And those numbers and or colors are really important for us to come up with themes that don't have an interference effect to our training stimulus. Okay, it'll make sense as I explain. So just bear with me right here. I have a small legend right here that explains like all those different things. What do they mean? What do the colors mean? And I've done other tutorial videos explaining all of that. Okay, so that's what this means. So you start out by trying to figure out when is your match day, and then what do we need to do the days before and or after. Okay, the after is also important because it's in relation to my then next week's match. Now, you might have a very predictable schedule, like every single Saturday I have a match. Okay, but in a lot of cases, it isn't predictable. There might be a match on a Wednesday or a Thursday and a Friday or a Sunday. Okay, so it changes. But this is a very standard type of weekly structure. Okay, so then we got these elements. Like I mentioned to you before, there's pre-pitch type of drills and or activities that you can do, or it's most appropriate to do before a training session, kind of like a prep type of thing. And then your training session, what can you do during your training session and post-pitch after the training session? Because you might be doing some things post-pitch, okay? You might be doing them before, and that will interfere probably with your performance during the actual field training session, okay? So I guess the order, okay, of sequence, it's really important for you to actually program or structure your training session, okay? Not just for that particular day, but for the whole week's training sessions, okay? So let's move along. So pre-pitch sessions. In here, obviously, I like to do my my warm up, my movement prep, and all that. But also, I like to include different elements that help us with some prehab. Okay, so what is prehab? Obviously, we're taking a proactive approach on certain segments of our body that will help us to prevent or mitigate the risk of injury. Okay, so let's say, for example, what I've done is within this particular system, what I've done is I've made it a point, okay, to really touch up, I guess, as a checklist, on different areas of our body. So let's say, for example, ankle and foot. I need to make sure that at least 1 to 2 times a week, I need to be doing some preventative work, okay, or prehab work to really strengthen and or maintain those structures. Hamstrings, adductors, quadriceps, hips and back, like all those different elements, I need to incorporate them. And I like to incorporate them usually before a training session, okay? Now, the different objectives or different emphasis for this particular type of training stimulus, it varies depending on what the focus of that particular session. So for example, on a Wednesday, which is a red day, which is your high volume and high intensity day, or the peak of the week, as far as loading goes, I need to make sure I hit on these different elements. Okay, so for example, hips and back and hamstrings. I know that when I go out to the pitch, I know I'm gonna be doing probably some long-sided games, which I need to really prep my hamstrings in order for my body to prepare and be able to tolerate the loads or the forces that I'm going to be experiencing for this particular type of session. And you'll get a better understanding of this particular structure as I move along. So just understand that there are some elements. Now, this don't take you a long time. It might be 10 to maybe 30 minutes, okay, before, okay, and this helps you to actually consider the time that you need before you start the training session, okay? Like I said, I'm exaggerating when I say 30 minutes, but, there is a range. Maybe you're taking your time. Maybe you need to do a little extra work. Maybe you notice that, your hamstrings have been really feeling the load, and or you're feeling, that the hamstrings are not strong enough. You need to really emphasize a little bit more work on that particular segment. So you put a lot more work and or time to really strengthen and or maintain those structures, okay? So, all right, so moving along. All right, so now we got training. During those training sessions, and this will look like, obviously, like a typical training week at a really high competitive level, all right? So this is your pitch training session. So usually on a match day plus 2, which is 48 hours after your match, you're still recovering, okay? It doesn't mean that you cannot work, but you do certain types of training in order to help you to recover faster, but within an active recovery process. All right, so in this particular training sessions, usually what you would do is a medium-sided game type of training drills, okay? And I'm not, I don't have time to just really go over what that looks like or anything like that, but I mean, it's just a medium-sided game type of scenario, okay? On a match day plus 3, okay, which is 72 hours. You should be, feeling nice and fresh and almost, if not fully recovered, okay? In this particular session, what you probably will do is a small-sided games, okay? For this session on Wednesday, what I like to do, especially 72 hours before a match, I like to do the long-sided games, okay, which you're going to cover a lot more ground, a lot more distances, and which you will get a big hit to your neural system or nervous system. So what will happen here is, because this will be the day with the highest load and or the highest intensity, you will need enough time for you to be fresh and recover, come down to your match day. And that's why I like to keep my heaviest session like the furthest away from match day. So that will be match day -3. So you'll do in here like max velocity type of drills and or stimulus. All right. So in here, you will do again. So in order for us to really bring down the load a little bit, is to do medium-sided games, to focus on your technical type of drills. It doesn't mean that you're not doing this. You'll see that in a little bit, but you kind of understand where you can plug in certain elements to your training sessions, because it's not just what you do on the field, it's what you do off the field as well. And how do you incorporate and integrate all the different elements, okay, into your training session to get the best out of the training stimulus, okay? And the objective, like I mentioned to you before, is for you to be as fresh as possible, come down to your game day. All right, so post-pitch and or the evening. So this is what you will do post-pitch. All right, so it will be ideal to do some upper body work and or some core training and or some bike, okay, if you do have access to that. Because what we're trying to do, remember, is to help our body recover as fast as possible, okay? So you start the week. So let's say you had a match on a Saturday of the previous week. So you're starting the Monday, you're still trying to recover from that match, okay? Obviously, there's exceptions to this, because if you had a match where you just played, 10 minutes or 20 minutes, then this will change, a lot. But let's say for the sake of this example, you played, a full match and now you're still trying to recover. Okay. It doesn't mean that you just completely take a day off, or you might need it, but okay, like I said, this is just a typical scenario. This is what I would recommend you do. On a Tuesday, you will focus on just working on improving the technical skill, okay, elements of your game. All right. In here, I put football IQ, where you're trying to still work on technical skills. This is a lot more just generic, okay, learning how to, or not learning, but or that might be the case, but polishing your that will be your touches, your passes, receiving, your turning, in here, the football IQ, and depending on your position, you will then polish your sports specific or position specific type of skills. Okay, so if you are a striker, then do finishing work, okay, from different types of areas. Finishing from a cross, whatever that is. I mean, this is what you will work on this element. And right after that, a little bit of strength work, strength and power work, okay? So this is how it looks, okay, for the full week as you saw it at first. So this is how you integrate all those different elements. So you start the Monday, pre-pitch, you go on the gym, and or it could be on the pitch as well, doesn't matter, and you take a card that you will see within the system. You take a card, you click on them, and you will pick and choose the exercises for that particular, card or emphasis for that particular area, okay? You grab 2 or 3 exercises from here, you grab 2 or 3 exercises from here, and then now you're ready to go. Now, I'm not including the warm-up elements. You might be doing or finish warming up right here on the pitch, all right? And in here, you might be doing some of that movement prep as well, but the emphasis will be on this type of exercises, okay? And you do the same, okay? Right in here, Tuesday, you will do this type of exercises with different types of emphasis. Now we're going to be focused on adductors and quadriceps. And why do I pick and choose this type of focus for this particular session? Because on this type of sessions, for example, you're going to be doing, if it's a small-sided game type of session, you're going to be doing a lot of accelerating and braking. So it will make sense to actually prepare the quadriceps, to prepare the adductors for all these kinds of change of direction that you're going to be exposing yourself during your training session on the pitch. Same here, hips and back and hamstrings, because this is going to be a long-sided game type of session, and you're going to be exposed to a max velocity scenario. Then it makes sense to then start preparing the hamstrings, the hips, the backs, in order for us to be ready to be exposed to the demands that you're going to be running into. Okay, on this session, ankle and foot, quadriceps, same thing. Everything makes sense from the start. Okay, and that's why we pick and choose these types of objectives before a training session. So we're just prepping in a smart way before we go out on the pitch by choosing these types of exercises that don't interfere, but that complement what you're going to be doing here on the pitch and also after your training session on the pitch. All right. So if you have any questions, obviously let me know. But this is pretty much the whole system in a nutshell. Okay, it should be very simple, very easy. Obviously, it takes time for you to kind of get used to it, but this will make your life a lot easier, knowing and having a clear path and a clear system on how to actually, do this. And, don't worry about what you need to do here, because I already have it for you. Okay, so in here, you got these cards, and you can click on them, and you'll see a video showing you what exactly do you need to do. And on the bottom, I show you exactly the times, the reps, and all that, as a reference for you to actually execute them. Same in here. You go in here. It's the same card. The only difference is that you see a picture in here of the exercise. So you click on them, and you can download it, and you'll see it on your tablet and or your phone. You'll see the exercises right then and there. All right? So I will see you soon. Any questions, let me know.